The diplomatic incident. The massive orbital station harmonic convergence gleamed like a polished gemstone against the backdrop of the swirling gas giant Iridium. Its sleek, crystalline architecture represented the pinnacle of galactic engineering, deliberately designed to showcase the cooperative achievements of the Galactic Concordat's 153-member species. The station had witnessed countless historical moments over its 3-century existence, but none quite like the arrival of humanity's first diplomatic delegation. Commander Elena Rice stood at the viewport of the human vessel Tenacity, watching as the docking clamps secured their ship to the imposing station. She straightened her formal Navy uniform, a dark blue affair with minimal decorations that the Concordat's protocol office had specifically requested. The aliens had been quite insistent on subdued presentation, whatever that meant. "Ready for this, Commander?" asked Dr. Marcus Chen, the delegation's chief xenolinguist, joining her at the viewport. "First major peace conference. History in the making." "Just hoping we don't mess it up," Rise replied, checking her reflection one last time. Earth command was pretty clear. Get in, sign the treaty, become full members of the Concordat, and don't start any interstellar incidents. Lieutenant Daria Volkov snorted from her position at the navigation console. No pressure. The human delegation consisted of 6 individuals chosen for their expertise and temperament. Rise as military representative, Chen for linguistics, Dr. Amara Okafor for xenobiology, Captain James Wilson for security protocols, Dr. Liv Erickson for technological exchange, and Ambassador Thomas Garcia for diplomatic matters. They represented Earth's recently unified government, formed in the aftermath of first contact 30 years prior. "Final systems check," announced Wilson, reviewing his tablet. "Translation implants functional, diplomatic packets loaded, and emergency protocols active but dormant. We're go for disembarkation." Ambassador Garcia nodded, his expression serene despite the weight of responsibility. "Then let's not keep the galaxy waiting." The airlock cycled open with a gentle hiss, revealing a reception committee of varied alien forms. At their center stood High Arbiter Voxlera of the Thraxi Dominion, a tall, insectoid being with iridescent carapace and compound eyes that seemed to capture every detail simultaneously. Flanking the Arbiter were representatives from a dozen major powers: the crystalline Luminar, gaseous Voidborn, 6-limbed Raxians, and others the humans had only encountered in briefing materials. "Greetings, children of Sol." Voxlera's voice resonated with harmonic undertones, perfectly translated by their implants. "The Concordat welcomed your presence at these proceedings." Garcia stepped forward, performing the precise sequence of gestures that constituted the formal Concordat greeting. Right palm extended, left hand over heart, slight bow from the waist. "The people of Earth are honored by your welcome, High Arbiter. We come in pursuit of lasting peace and mutual prosperity." The aliens visibly relaxed at the correct performance of the ritual. Rise noted with interest how several representatives exchanged what appeared to be looks of relief. Had they expected humans to botch the introduction? "Please follow," instructed a Luminar attendant, its crystalline body refracting light in hypnotic patterns. The preliminary assembly begins in one standard unit. As they proceeded through the station's sweeping corridors, Rise maintained a professional demeanor while cataloging every detail. The station's architecture emphasized openness and transparency, likely a deliberate design choice for a place of diplomatic negotiation. Various species moved with purpose through the hallways, some recognizable from briefings, others entirely new. "I count at least 30 different species just in this corridor," Dr. Okafor whispered. "Some of them definitely aren't in our xenobiology database." "Focus," Rise murmured. "We're here to sign a peace treaty, not collect specimens." The delegation was led to an enormous chamber with concentric rings of seating surrounding a central platform. The room hummed with quiet conversation in dozens of languages, all seamlessly converted by translation fields. The humans were directed to a modest section in the third ring, not quite the center of power, but not relegated to the margins either. Mid-tier placement, Ambassador Garcia observed quietly. They're still evaluating our importance. As they settled into their assigned positions, Reyes noticed something odd about the chamber's arrangement. The central positions were occupied by species she recognized as technological powerhouses, while those with less advanced capabilities sat further out. Earth's placement suggested a rather specific assessment of human capabilities, respectable but not threatening. How wrong they were. The preliminary assembly proceeded with ritual introductions of each delegation, statements of peaceful intent, and a complex exchange of diplomatic credentials. The humans performed their parts flawlessly, having rehearsed extensively during the 3-week journey to the station. When the formal proceedings concluded, the real work began, a reception designed for more casual interaction between delegations. This was where everything started to unravel. Captain Wilson was the first to make a misstep. Engaged in conversation with a Raxian military attaché about defensive systems, he casually mentioned Earth's planetary shield grid. "You have a full coverage shield system for your homeworld?" the Raxian asked, all 6 limbs suddenly still. "For about 15 years now," Wilson answered, not noticing the alien's reaction. After the Proxima Centauri incident, it seemed prudent. The latest iteration can withstand sustained bombardment from capital-class weapons for approximately 72 hours. The Raxian's translator didn't properly convey the response, but nearby conversations noticeably dimmed. Meanwhile, Dr. Erickson found herself discussing energy production with a group of Luminar engineers. When asked about human power generation capabilities, she mentioned the newest antimatter conversion plants with characteristic scientific enthusiasm. "We've achieved 97.3% efficiency in our newest facilities," she explained. "The breakthrough came when we realized we could stabilize the containment fields using quantum-locked monopoles." "Your species has monopole technology," a Luminar delegate chimed, its crystalline body suddenly vibrating at a higher frequency. "For about a decade," Erickson replied. "Is that unusual?" The silence that followed should have been warning enough, but the humans, still adjusting to alien social cues, failed to recognize the significance. The final breakdown in diplomatic harmony came during a discussion between Commander Reyes and several military representatives regarding conflict resolution protocols. When asked about Earth's defensive doctrine, Reyes gave an honest answer. "We maintain a reactive posture," she explained, sipping from a glass of offered refreshment. "Earth Command doesn't believe in preemptive strikes, but we're fully prepared for proportional response to any aggression." "Proportional in what manner?" asked a Thraxi commander. "Depends on the threat," Reyes said with a shrug. "Conventional, nuclear, antimatter, or dimensional displacement weapons are all available options, though the latter are strictly last resort. We've never actually deployed a reality shredder outside of testing conditions." The term reality shredder didn't properly translate, creating a moment of confusion that Reyes attempted to clarify, making things immeasurably worse. "It's essentially a contained rupture in space-time," she explained, as though discussing something as ordinary as a kitchen appliance. "Creates a temporary pocket universe with different physical constants, then collapses it back into our reality. Very effective for neutralizing threats without collateral damage to surrounding space." The reception area fell into absolute silence. Even the ambient music ceased, as though the station itself was holding its breath. "You possess the capability to alter fundamental physical constants." High Arbiter Voxlera's voice cut through the silence, all harmonics gone from their speech patterns. Ambassador Garcia, recognizing the diplomatic tailspin, quickly intervened. "Only in extremely controlled circumstances, High Arbiter. These technologies remain theoretical in many aspects and would never be deployed without exhausting all peaceful alternatives." But the damage was done. Within minutes, the reception dissolved as delegation after delegation made polite excuses to depart. The humans were swiftly escorted back to their quarters by a contingent of Concordat security officers, ostensibly for their protection, though the armed escort suggested otherwise. "What just happened?" Dr. Chen asked once they were alone in their assigned suite. Ambassador Garcia sank into a chair, rubbing his temples. We just revealed that humanity possesses technology the Concordat considers existentially dangerous. But everything I mentioned is in our public scientific literature. Dr. Erickson protested. Nothing was classified. That's precisely the problem, Garcia replied grimly. We've just told the most powerful species in the galaxy that humans casually wield technologies they consider apocalyptic, and we're so nonchalant about it that we publish the details for any undergraduate to read. Commander Reyes moved to the suite's communication terminal. I should contact Earth Command. This situation could escalate quickly. Too late, Captain Wilson said, checking his security feeds. Look at this. The external monitors showed frantic activity throughout the station. Delegations were gathering in small groups, security personnel were deploying to strategic positions, and the docking bay where their ship was housed was now ringed with what appeared to be containment fields. They've quarantined us, Rice stated flatly. Not just us. Dr. Okoffer pointed to another feed showing the tenacity surrounded by scanning equipment. They're examining our ship too. This is a disaster, Garcia muttered. We came to join a peace conference and may have just triggered an interstellar incident. Outside their suite, the station's communication systems activated with a station-wide announcement. Attention all delegations. By order of the Security Council, the harmonic convergence is now under Emergency Protocol 7. All scheduled proceedings are temporarily suspended. Please remain in designated areas until further notice. Dr. Chen looked up from his translation device. Emergency Protocol 7. That's their code for containment of an unexpected existential threat. The 6 humans exchanged worried glances as the implications became clear. Well, Lieutenant Volkov said dryly, breaking the tense silence. At least we made an impression. Outside their quarters, the Galactic Concordat was convening its first emergency session in over 50 years. The subject, what to do about the terrifying humans who had arrived so politely at their doorstep, bearing smiles and reality-shredding weapons. The diplomatic incident had just begun. The unexpected alliance. 26 hours into what the human delegation had begun referring to as their luxury detention, Commander Reyes paced the confines of their suite. The Concordat had provided no formal explanation for their containment, though the continuous scanning of both the delegation and their vessel told its own story. They're afraid of us, Dr. Chen concluded, reviewing transcripts of intercepted communications his translation implant had captured. From what I can piece together, they think we're either bluffing about our capabilities or, more worryingly, that we're not. How is that possible? Lieutenant Volkov asked, idly disassembling and reassembling her personal sidearm, a nervous habit she'd developed during the Martian conflict. Earth isn't even a unified political entity until 30 years ago. These species have been spacefaring for millennia. Dr. Erickson looked up from her tablet. Different evolutionary paths, different priorities. The Concordat species seem to have developed along cooperative lines, with technological advancement occurring through careful consensus and shared research. Humanity. Developed through conflict and competition, Ambassador Garcia finished grimly. We achieved in decades what took them centuries because we were always trying to outdo each other or prevent mutual destruction. The Cold War space race weaponized nuclear technology, the climate crisis solutions. Captain Wilson nodded. All major leaps came from existential threats. Ambassador Garcia's communication device chimed with an incoming transmission, the first official contact since their isolation began. Ambassador Garcia, your presence is requested by the Concordat Security Council. You may bring one advisor. Garcia looked at Commander Reyes. I believe that would be you, Commander. Agreed, she replied, already adjusting her uniform. The rest of you, continue analysis. If this goes sideways, be prepared for emergency extraction protocols. The escort waiting outside their quarters was substantial. 8 security officers representing different species, all equipped with weapons that the humans' technology scanners identified as non-lethal, but certainly incapacitating. They were led through a series of corridors Reyes hadn't seen during their initial tour, eventually arriving at a circular chamber with a single table at its center. Seated around the table were 5 individuals, the Security Council of the Concordat, representing the founding species of the Interstellar Alliance. At their head sat High Arbiter Voxlera, flanked by the imposing form of Grand Marshal Klovac of the Rakshian Imperium, the Luminar Prime Consciousness, First Speaker Noom of the Voidborn, and the enigmatic nexus point of the collective mind, Ambassador Garcia, Commander Reyes. Voxlera began without preamble. We have reviewed your vessel's databases, those portions accessible to our systems, and consulted extensively regarding your unexpected disclosures. High Arbiter, Garcia responded with perfect diplomatic calm. I must formally protest this violation of sovereignty. The tenacity is Earth territory under galactic common law, which the Concordat itself established. Your protest is noted. The Grand Marshal rumbled, his 6 limbs arranged in what Reyes' cultural briefing identified as a posture of defensive readiness. However, Protocol 7 supersedes standard diplomatic protections when potential existential threats are identified. Existential threats? Reyes couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. We came to join a peace conference. You came. The Luminar's crystalline form pulsed with light patterns that conveyed agitation even without translation, bearing casual mention of technologies that could unmake reality itself. What the prime consciousness means, First Speaker Noom's gaseous form, swirled in patterns that the translator rendered as emphasis, is that your species possesses multiple class Omega technologies that the Concordat has determined are too dangerous to develop. Yet you speak of them as though discussing agricultural methods. Ambassador Garcia leaned forward slightly. There seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding. Humanity has no hostile intent toward the Concordat or its members. We seek peaceful integration into the galactic community. Intent is irrelevant when capability exists. The Nexus Point stated, its psychic voice translated directly into thought rather than sound. The existence of such weapons creates instability regardless of the bearer's intentions. Reyes was about to respond when the chamber's lighting suddenly shifted to deep crimson. An alarm sounded, and holographic displays materialized around the council members. Security breach in the lower docking quadrant announced an automated system. Unknown vessels have forced entry. Dimensional harmonics detected. The council members exchanged looks of unmistakable alarm. The Void Heralds, Grand Marshal Klovac hissed. They've bypassed the outer defensive grid. Who are the Void Heralds? Garcia asked quickly. A religious extremist faction, Voxlera explained, already activating emergency protocols on the console before them. They believe technological advancement beyond certain thresholds offends their deities. They seek to purge what they consider corrupting technologies through whatever means necessary, including destroying this station. Reyes asked. Precisely, the Luminar confirmed, its crystalline body now pulsing with emergency patterns. They have attempted such attacks before, but never penetrated this far into Concordat space. The station shuddered as something impacted its structure. The security feeds showed chaos erupting throughout the lower levels, beings in ornate armor wielding weapons that seemed to distort the very space around them. Those are dimensional phase weapons, Reyes observed, immediately recognizing the visual signature from Earth's early experiments. Crude, but effective against conventional defenses. The council members turned to stare at her. You recognize this technology? First Speaker Noom asked. Of course, Reyes replied, her military training taking over. We abandoned that approach decades ago due to stability issues, but I know how to counter it. Garcia caught her meaning immediately. High Arbiter, we offer Earth's assistance in this crisis. Commander Reyes is our foremost expert on dimensional technologies. And why would you help us? Grand Marshal Klovac demanded. Moments ago, we were questioning you as potential threats. Because that's what humans do, Reyes stated simply. We help when help is needed. Politics can wait until people are safe. A moment of silence followed, broken by another impact that made the station's artificial gravity fluctuate momentarily. Very well, Voxelera decided. What do you require? Access to our ship and my full team, Rise answered immediately. And I need to know this station's power grid specifications. Within minutes, the human delegation was reunited and briefed on the situation. The Void Heralds had deployed 20 vessels in a coordinated attack pattern, with boarding parties already inside the station and advancing toward the central core. Their weapons are creating localized reality distortions, Dr. Erickson explained, reviewing the sensor data provided by the Concordat. Essentially miniature tears in space-time that disrupt matter at the quantum level. Can we counter it? Garcia asked. Absolutely, Rice confirmed. Captain Wilson, access the Tenacity's defensive systems. Dr. Erickson, I need you to reconfigure our shield harmonics to create a dampening field against phase weapons. Dr. Okafor, work with Dr. Chen to access the station's biological database. We need to ensure any countermeasures won't harm non-human physiologies. What about me? Lieutenant Volkov asked, a gleam in her eye that anyone who had served with her would recognize. Commander Reyes smiled thinly. How do you feel about field testing that tactical prototype you've been tinkering with? The Peory. Volkov grinned. I thought you'd never ask. The Portable Entropy Regulation Interface was Volkov's pet project, a device designed to stabilize localized reality fluctuations. Originally conceived for deep space exploration near black holes, it had obvious applications against the Void Herald's weapons. As the team deployed to their tasks, Ambassador Garcia remained with the Council, providing real-time updates and diplomatic reassurance. The initial distrust had given way to wary cooperation born of necessity. Your people move with remarkable efficiency, Voxelera observed as holographic displays showed the humans rapidly implementing countermeasures throughout the station. Crisis response is something of a human specialty, Garcia replied. We've had plenty of practice. On the lower levels, Lieutenant Volkov led a joint human Concordat security team through corridors already showing signs of dimensional damage. Reality itself seemed to waver and distort where the Herald's weapons had struck. Readings show 5 Heralds advancing from Section 12G. She reported into her comm unit, the Peory device humming with power in her hands. Moving to intercept. When the Heralds rounded the corner, tall, willowy beings in ornate armor covered in religious inscriptions, they raised their phase weapons with practiced precision. The security team tensed, but Volkov simply activated her device. A shimmering field of blue-white energy expanded outward, and the Herald's weapons suddenly emitted high-pitched whines before shutting down entirely. The beings stared in apparent shock at their now useless technology. Reality in this corridor is now temporarily normalized and locked, Volkov announced with professional satisfaction. Standard weapons only, gentlemen. The skirmish that followed was brief and decisive. Meanwhile, in the station's engineering section, Dr. Erickson worked alongside Luminar technicians to extend the Tenacity's defensive field throughout the station's power grid. Your shield technology is remarkably adaptable, one Luminar commented, its crystalline structure vibrating with what Erickson recognized as scientific curiosity. Necessity drove innovation, she explained, making final adjustments to the integration parameters. Earth faced numerous threats requiring rapid adaptation. We learned to make our systems highly modular and reconfigurable. Activation in 3, 2, 1. The station hummed as the modified shield engaged, spreading the subtle golden haze throughout all affected areas. Immediately, reports began flowing in. The Herald's weapons were failing across the station. In the command center, Commander Reyes coordinated with Captain Wilson as they targeted the Herald's vessels still surrounding the station. Their ships used the same technology principles as their handheld weapons. Wilson noted, the shield disruption should affect them equally. Target their engine cores, Reyes ordered, disabling shots only. The Tenacity's weapon systems, previously concealed from Concordat scans, came online with devastating efficiency. Precision strikes disabled the Herald's vessels without destroying them, leaving them adrift and powerless. Within 2 hours of the initial breach, the crisis was contained. The Herald boarding parties were captured or neutralized, their ships disabled and ready for Concordat authorities to process according to their laws. In the aftermath, the human delegation was summoned once more to the council chamber, this time without guards and with a markedly different atmosphere. The Concordat owes humanity a debt. High Arbiter Voxlera began, their harmonics conveying genuine gratitude. Your swift action prevented significant loss of life and preserved this historic station. Ambassador Garcia bowed slightly. Earth is pleased to have been of assistance. We hope this demonstrates our sincere desire for peaceful cooperation. It demonstrates far more than that, Grand Marshal Kolvac stated. It shows judgment and restraint, qualities we had not fully attributed to your species. We misunderstood humanity's nature, the Luminar Prime consciousness admitted, its light patterns now calm and measured. We saw only the potential for destruction in your technologies, not the wisdom with which you wield them. A common error when encountering new species, First Speaker Nuum added, we assumed similar developmental paths would lead to similar value systems. What particularly impressed us, the Nexus Point's thoughts resonated clearly, was not merely your technological prowess, but your immediate willingness to assist those who had just questioned your intentions. Commander Reyes stepped forward. With respect, that's the most human thing about us. We argue, we fight, we question each other constantly. But when an external threat appears, we put differences aside and act together. A curious evolutionary strategy, Voxlera observed, yet evidently effective. The Security Council has reached a unanimous decision, Grand Marshal Kolvac announced. Earth's petition for membership in the Galactic Concordat will be approved with immediate effect. Ambassador Garcia's expression remained diplomatic, but the subtle straightening of his posture revealed his satisfaction. Earth is honored to join the community of worlds. We look forward to contributing to the Concordat's continued peace and prosperity. There is one condition, the Luminar added. Earth must agree to share its defensive technologies, not the weapons, but the protections, the shield adaptations, the reality stabilization devices, and similar systems. That seems reasonable, Garcia nodded. Though our technology exchange protocols typically, we also request, First Speaker Nuum interrupted, gas forms swirling with what the translator identified as mild embarrassment, that humanity consider taking a more active role in Concordat security matters. The human delegation exchanged surprised glances. You want us to help protect the Concordat? Commander Reyes asked for clarification. The Void Heralds are but one of several existential threats facing our collective civilizations, Voxlera explained. Your species has demonstrated remarkable aptitude for crisis response and defensive innovation. Such skills would be invaluable to the Concordat's continued survival. Ambassador Garcia smiled for the first time since the diplomatic incident began. I believe Earth would be amenable to such an arrangement. We have a saying, the best defense is a good neighbor. An interesting proverb. The Nexus Point's thoughts carried a hint of amusement. Though our scans of your cultural database suggest the original saying had a somewhat different meaning. We adapted it, Garcia replied smoothly. As humans tend to do. 3 days later, as the peace conference resumed with Earth, now holding a position in the first ring of delegations, Commander Reyes stood beside Ambassador Garcia as they prepared to sign the formal articles of membership. Not how I expected this mission to go, she murmured. From suspected threat to security partners in less than a week. The irony isn't lost on me, Garcia replied quietly. They feared our weapons until they needed our shields. That's always been humanity's story, Reyes said, watching as representatives from 153 worlds gathered to witness Earth's inclusion in their community. We build the sword and the plowshare with equal skill. It's what we do with them that defines us. As Ambassador Garcia stepped forward to make Earth's first mark on galactic history, the assembled delegates of the Concordat rose in a gesture of respect that required no translation. The humans had arrived at the peace talks as unknowns and would depart as allies, not despite their power, but because they had shown wisdom in its application. The galaxy, it seemed, had much to learn from its newest members, and humanity, in turn, had found its place among the stars not by conquering them, but by protecting them. For Earth and all humanity, Garcia spoke the traditional words as he pressed his hand to the document. We pledge peace and partnership with all sentient beings of goodwill. The harmonic convergence station gleamed in the light of Iridium's distant sun, its crystalline surfaces reflecting the beginning of a new era, one in which humanity's tendency to prepare for the worst would help preserve the best the galaxy had to offer.